Yeah, I did not expect sexual discipline to become such a non-negotiable for me in my adulthood. I don't know if it's just because when you're younger, you're not really thinking of life that far ahead, like having kids with that person. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with future faking, like being told, if you have an issue with something now, oh, it won't be like that when we live together. Oh, it won't be like that when, we're older. Oh, it won't be like that in a few years. And by like settling and clinging to that, you think like, oh, this issue won't be a problem later. It's somehow miraculously going to be so different despite the fact that this person isn't even taking something that's serious to me now seriously. And I'm sorry, but like if you're literally a cute little thing in your prime, in your 20s, even like in your late teens, and the person that you are romantically committed to doesn't understand how, one, it's just threatening to the ego to feel like your husband, or you're not your husband, your boyfriend is entitled to having sex with you, but then also having the door open for other women, and that leading ultimately to this insecure outcome of not only is this person not respecting how this is hurting my feelings, but I feel unwanted, I feel unattractive, I feel used, or I feel like I'm pressured into having to, interact with him sexually even when I don't want to because I know that if I don't do it, this is the other option. Then, like, exactly. Good luck when you're pregnant. That's literally my worst nightmare. Like, if somebody doesn't have the discipline just based off your feelings alone, this is your partner who's committed to you in a relationship and they can't respect it then. Boy, when you are saying no left and right, even for a few weeks, few months, and you feel your worst, and you feel your ugliest, and your most hormonal, what starts as, oh, I'm just using this to get off, it doesn't mean anything to me, which is even worse, becomes, microdosing cheating when you're in your most vulnerable position. And if this is happening when you guys are in an amazing place, you're so happy, imagine what it's gonna be like when he's fucking pissed at you. It's just a sign. I saw someone comment that it's like a gateway drug, and I do feel like that's it. I feel like it's pushing the needle further and further to see how far it can go. Not only in terms of corn fucking with your brain, and I'm not saying that every person who watches it is a cheater. That's not what I'm saying. But like, come on, what a deal. If you're a man and you want your cake and you want to eat it too, the best thing you can do is date a girl who's gonna meet your physical sexual needs and use her body when she's willing to give it to you. And then when she's not, be like, okay, well, there's another woman anyways, and if that bothers you, you're insecure. If this man truly loves and respects you, if you're pregnant, that man will be insanely attracted to you. That is intimacy. Not, fuck, my wife's pregnant. Now I gotta find a newly 18-year-old girl who looks nothing like my girlfriend. Yeah, it's highly concerning. I can think of a lot of things off the top of my head. I have a very distinct memory of being at my friend's house growing up, and they had a young sister who was probably like honestly 4 or 5 years old. And we were there with another guy friend, and he was talking about how hot she was because she was a little girl, a child, running around in like a bikini around the house. They had a pool, she was going swimming, and he was like, she's gonna be so fucking hot when she's older. Again, when you're young, you literally as a girl are conditioned to just laugh it off, despite the fact that that's a really concerning thing to say. And where does that comment come from? Either corn or being around another adult man who says things like that. When fucking Bad Baby turned 18, when anyone turns 18, when Billie Eilish turned 18, you have millions of men all over the country counting down the moment that a girl is legal. That way they can fuck the freshly, or imagine fucking the freshly legal girl because she's still that child, but it's like, it's not anything I can get in trouble for anymore. I'm no longer a predator because the clock struck midnight. I'm from Connecticut too, so when I was younger, I used to go to New York City a lot growing up when I was like literally 12, 13, 14, 15. Didn't have a phone, didn't have money, it was irresponsible. But I was a believer, so I had to track down Justin Bieber in New York City. And oh my god, I used to get catcalled so much more than I do now at 13, 14, 15, 16. Ever than I do at this age. And obviously now, like, it's still, you still get looks or comments or, oh my god, you're beautiful, you just blessed my day, things like that, or just like questions, things that are intricately more geared to trap you into a conversation because they know you're not stupid once you hit a certain age. But I thought I was a chubby little girl growing up compared to all my stick thin friends. So whenever I would wear shorts in the summer in New York City, oh my fucking god, it was always about crushing them with my thighs. They wanted to sit in my thighs. Anything about my ass, how I was such a woman for such a young girl. And they would just walk with me and follow me. And at that age, you don't know what the fuck to do because snapping back is dangerous. So you just keep your head down and you're hearing all this horrific shit, hoping that they just stop following you at some point. And I would try to like sneak in to Justin Bieber concerts and things like that. And I remember like knowing that at that age I had the power to like finesse a light manager or something if they thought I was cute. I was with a group of girlies who were also all minors. One of them though was from New York, so she had more experience with dealing with this shit. And some guy sat next to me and he wasn't being that creepy, so I was like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Started complimenting my feet. I was wearing sandals, asked me what size shoe I wore, what's my favorite color to paint my toenails. And men get off to that because of corn and because of conditioning. They think it's hot that a little girl isn't too naive to understand that she's being sexualized. And that's the advantage of going for children. They don't know any better, therefore they get to indulge in it more. It's awful. I can tell you right now, who you are today is not going to be even comparable to the type of person that you're going to be when you're 25. You might look the same, you might still be in the same circumstances. I personally, from 20 to 25, my life hasn't changed that drastically. Same people, living in the same place, same circumstances, but I am worlds different of a person than I was back then. But the one thing that's the same is I always think I know everything. And at 20 years old, maybe not now, I think I'm more able to surrender to the fact that I don't know a fucking thing and neither does anybody else. Life is just a game of thinking you're figuring it out and then realizing you didn't. But when I was 20, I thought I had the whole world figured out. I thought I was so self-aware, had, such a clear understanding of who I am and why I do the things that I do and who I want to be and what things I believed in. And just within a few years, it didn't even take me until 25, I would say 23, I was like, I don't know a fucking thing. And that's why I feel like, I don't know, this is a whole nother conversation, but I worry about, I'm not saying you shouldn't, it concerns me when people are in relationships so young, like serious, stressful relationships, in high school, or if they get married super young, because like your brain isn't even done developing. Bitch, like you don't even know who you are. And to dedicate your whole life to somebody, or to just to be so entrapped and entranced in another person while you're both in a period of growth and like insane, rapid growth is such like an interruption. And obviously you need people to grow. I'm not saying you shouldn't date people until you're 25. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that it can interrupt maybe some identity development. And if we're looking back to 5 years ago, everything that I just said in that video, I would have been like, oh my god, that girl is so conservative. That girl is so anti-feminist. And it takes a few years of realizing, oh my god, the people, the women that I thought were old, negative assholes, these old judgmental hags to young girls, were actually fucking right about a lot of things, and it's because they've lived through it and they can look back and see that now. And unfortunately, there's just a really big trap of being told and invited to engage in and sold this idea that women have a choice and it's feminist to lean into your sexuality. And of course that's true in certain circumstances, but you start to zoom out and see the way that things happen and see the outcome of things, and you start to make sense of everything. And you're like, oh my god, this was a scam and I fell for it. I'm an astrologer too, and astrologically speaking, the transits you go through up until like 30 years old, you're a different person every day, and who you think you are today is going to be worlds different in 5 years. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was not built for the TikTok app because comments like this that are so ignorant and lack any crumb of self-awareness are so infuriating, and I do not have the patience or tolerance to explain why it's so infuriating. To be told, yeah, I don't think men intentionally know that they are causing irreversible, horrific damage to women, that they beg and plead for you to at least, at the very least, acknowledge every single day. Somehow it was unintentional and you were completely unaware. And then on top of that, just a heads up though, yeah, help us get right. Help us get right for our futures. Bro, it has never been easier. Google exists, books exist. You can learn something in 3 seconds. And even if I took a blackboard out right now, like every other person on this app who talks about this subject, and explained it to you, it still wouldn't matter and you still wouldn't do anything about it. Do the work for yourself if it's something you actually value, and please just read a fucking book. It's not that hard to put two and two together to understand how content that is completely free and coming at you infinitely from every angle, ads on all websites that promote things that you know are wrong, like underaged content, things suggesting involving children or sleeping with your family member, violent content that is literally encouraging you to get off to beating the fuck out of a woman is obviously wrong. And I don't need to tell you that because you know that. But it's easier, yes, to brush it under the rug, to think, oh, this is just something that I get off to and then I shut it off. And then when you see something in real life happening that is a result of this, you don't do anything because it's not your business and whatever. It's insane that so many women deal with this on a day-to-day basis, yet somehow no man knows an abuser or someone who interacts with minors or is sexually assaulting their girlfriend, somebody they work with, their neighbor. It is intentional. And it's because there's no consequence. It's so easy, and you're never going to have to deal with the bad side of it. Well, men do deal with the bad side of it too, and it does, I think, lead to a lot of unfulfilling relationships. But that's a lot easier to take than like actually being the victim of what the larger industry does to the perception of women as a whole. If you don't like reading, there's a bunch of documentaries about it, and maybe that will help you be able to empathize more by having visuals and seeing real accounts of people who are victims of it. And then understanding with that knowledge, I can see how this kind of bleeds into my intimate relationships and how maybe I didn't recognize that at first because I'm not the one having to deal with the direct consequences.